Thank you. Um, First of all, I want to say that June has been an incredibly rich month for me in experiences, and how these calls have been part of that rich experience is something that Heather more or less says, that it's sort of it lifts the sort of the level of resonance you have, the flow we're trying to get into or are getting into in this new paradigm that is basically working completely different from what we are taught. And these calls work magnificently. The story I want to tell is a one that has a lot to do with serendipity, I guess. It was that Stephanie told me, or told Jane Foley, asked Jane Foley to connect to me, to support me on a project that I'm doing, which is the organization of a COP for the Amazon. A COP like in the COP25, the Conference of the Parties, to protect the Amazon and to give a different model of development, sustainable development about that so incredibly important area. So Joy is from Australia and I am from Brazil, and I had to be in London amongst others with Claire Hayden, who is present here, for a roundtable to connect the CCC, the climate change and consciousness spirit, with the dynamics of Extinction Rebellion. And the only day that I could meet Joy, she happened to be in London. The only day that I could meet her was on the day that we had a roundtable with people, let's say, in the orbit of Extinction Rebellion. So that was a wonderful possibility to meet her in London. And then basically how the day grew, she basically rolled into the roundtable that evening and had a very important presence there. But our preparations went a little bit, in the afternoon, went a little bit off the rail, and our timing was a little bit off the rail, so we couldn't disperse anymore. So we stayed together, and instead of that, we went through the rain to Westminster Abbey, and we passed by the Parliament. At the moment we passed by Parliament, it was Boris Johnson, who just came out in a car, and I jokingly said, "Well, that's exactly the direction we want him to be in." And then we went to Westminster Abbey, which was closed, but Joy said two things, and we were allowed in for a 15-minute prayer. And so the whole day was actually sort of magic, and this serendipity, this synchronicity that is happening in that sphere is amazing. And it's once I get the hang of it completely, I guess the world will be changing very fast if we all get into that flow. And this month has been particularly strong for me in many ways, especially carried by all the people, wonderful people I meet on my way, also in this Now What conversations. That's my story.
Thank you, Rob. So just to clarify, the connection to the deep dive and Now What was just the sort of field that we helped create for you, or was there some more specific piece that I didn't catch?
Not only that, because I've also been, for instance, in contact with Suzanne, who has been helping me on understanding more how to communicate better in a non-violent way. So that was a direct connection. I could tell many more stories, how many people I met in different situations which are connected to this Now What. But this was just a singular story where things came so well together, and Joy also was in the Now What. So it was a sort of a multi-dimensional situation. But yes, if I could say that the calls have helped me to keep my levels up of being open to whatever it is that we are all, I'm sure, experiencing, and that somehow carries the flow forward, the transition forward.
Yeah, got it.
Is that okay, Ben? Is that
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do again the round of one sentence reflections on Rob's story for anyone who wants to offer them.
I'll jump in. Rob, there's the picture that comes to my head is the exponential curve, where it's sort of trundling along and it feels like nothing's happening, and then it starts tipping up, and then it hits critical mass and then just goes. And it feels like that's where we are all have been. It's like we've been holding space and informing the field and truly stepping into that space of just trusting in what nature knows best. And then it's like everything comes together and then it shoots up. And that's very affirming.
And yes, Rob, one, I just love knowing you on these calls. And I can feel the joy that you've had just allowing the flow to happen and going, okay, I'm, we are in a flow. And I'm happy that you're allowing it. And I want to come to Brazil and see you.
Yeah, you've been such a beautiful, heart-opening presence on the calls, and so appreciative all the way through. And your story to me, the subtlety of what's going on, and so there's one connection and then other connections, but it's my favorite metaphor these days for transformation is fungi, particularly the ones in a forest that are underneath the soil, and networks that are moving information and resources around, and then those networks are just very tiny little one-to-one kinds of connections, but many, many, many of them going on, right? Infinitely complex. And I feel like you are telling us a manifestation of yes, the mycelial math and how it operates, and the mushrooms that pop up from that, they're just the fruit, right? They're not the main thing of the fungi. They happen only when conditions are ready, but and they're what we pay attention to and we think of as fungi, but it's really what's going on in the soil that's the real ongoing source of transformational power, or that helps a whole ecosystem to function as an ecosystem.
I'm feeling so moved that I'm really crying because of the exponential quality that comes in that feedback round to what you're saying, Rob. And then Trey, when you come up, exponential going up, and then there's Ben going down, and then there's that heart of Heather. For me, Rob, when you spoke, I felt my bones growing stronger and stronger. I want to thank you for that, for mending my bones.
Thank you for those sweet words, Shulamit.
I'd like to share an appreciation. I spend a lot of time on video calls with you, Rob, and the thing that I've noticed happening since we've been in this community, the deep dive community and just kind of the extended community, is just, I feel like I've watched you get sweeter and sweeter. Like your energy has become more and more part of the earth. And I see you feel that, and I see you appreciating that, and comes for me in witnessing that. And I just wanted to say thank you for showing us what it looks like to be so trusting in spite of grief and any anxiety or fear or not knowing. You still show up with innocence, and that to me is the greatest courage.